Warning, the following is a horror movie discussion podcast. It will likely contain foul language and arguably mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Neil Street Nightmare. Hello and welcome to the premiere episode of Neil Street Nightmare. This is an all horror movie podcast. I'm your host, Clint Andre, and I'm joined by my co-host, Wheels.
Hey, everybody.
We are talking about the 1986 movie Hatchet. Old school American horror. That's what the tagline says.
And it really is, but, give them more info or whatever.
Well, yeah, I think, really around this time, I looked at what all was coming out, and there wasn't really a whole lot of good horror movie coming out in 2006. And even now, there's so much, as you just mentioned a little while ago, PG-13 and
yeah, it seems like all the new horror movies that are coming out now, it's like always PG-13, and a ton of them are all, well, it seemed to gotten away from that a little bit, but
yeah,
at the time they were all PG-13 and all of them were that found footage. If it wasn't a paranormal or a Ouija board or something or
yeah,
whatever.
the ghost stories and all that, which is pretty much actually my least favorite type of horror movies. I like a couple, but...
Well, I mean, if it's done right, ghost stories can be done really, really well. And there's actually a few of them that I want to do, for this show, but that's later down the line, that if ghost stories, if they're done really well, can be really creepy, really good, or whatever.
Yeah.
But it seemed like lately they just gotten this, formula that's the same, let's just turn out the same old thing, Drek.
Yeah. Okay, so this movie is written and directed by Adam Green, who I'm a big fan of. I call him the Kevin Smith of the horror genre.
I don't have a real opinion on that, but go for it.
Well, I just say he does so much. One thing I really like is that he is a true horror fanboy.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, he is that.
And he's got the podcast, makes short films, but he's just a guy who has a genuine love, and that's one thing I really like about Adam Green. And he's got a dark sense of humor that I also like. But
well, if you're into horror movies, I don't know if there's really such thing as a really casual horror fan. I mean, I'm sure there could be. But when you meet a lot of horror fans. Well, like I said, you and me, this is mine. If people were to look at my collection at home and Jesus Christ.
I put it this way. If you know who Tom Savini is, you're more than casual. If you just know the big names or whatever hits the screens, then you're casual.
Casual, yeah. And if I say like a director like Tobe Hooper and you don't know the movie that he's big for, you're casual.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Or Poltergeist, you could also say.
Yeah, Poltergeist. Well, he's done a lot.
A lot of people associate that movie, I think, with Spielberg because he produced it or something. But.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had Spielberg's name was all over that, but Hooper directed.
Yeah.
And going back to the ghost story kind of thing, that's another one that was when it's done, it's done right.
I agree. And this movie is distributed by Anchor Bay. I'm going to get into that a little bit more. There are a lot of subjects I feel I can get into a lot more with the horror genre because there's so many things that are just kind of specific to the horror genre. Like there are certain distribution companies that pretty much specialize in horror, and Anchor Bay is one. Dark Sky, Full Moon Entertainment,
Shriek Show.
Trauma.
Well, Trauma is a bit of their own kind of monster.
Yeah. I don't know if I consider a lot of Trauma movies to be actual horror, just more of like gross out schlock.
Like I said, Trauma is a bit of its own creature.
Yeah, I agree. So, as this was my pick, I'll go ahead and give a synopsis. Poor deformed swamp dweller Victor Crowley defends his territory against invading tourists.
That nails it. Forget the spoiler alarm for this one, folks.
There's not a whole lot to spoil about this. This is straight up. I don't know if we're even going to do spoiler alarm. Probably people who are probably listening to the show, I'm going to guess, are probably into a lot of the movies we're going to be talking about and already have seen the movie. Just want to hear what we have to say about it. So
I could, yeah.
So yeah, I'm not going to worry about the whole spoiler alarm thing so much on this.
On this show?
Yep. See, next thing I cover is what's it rated and why? Well, for strong, bloody horror, violence, sexual content, nudity, and language. Yes, it's got gore and boobies in it.
Back to the good old days of horror. Like you said,
real throwback.
Real throwback, like you said, the tagline, real American horror.
Yep. Before we became 2PC and everything, yeah. Now, another section. Were there practical effects? Yes. In fact, I read on the trivia that Adam Green actually had a no CG policy for this movie.
And you know what? Bravo. Bravo.
Yes. The effects were done by John Carl Buechler, who also plays Jack Cracker in the movie. He was the guy in the boat at the beginning telling them not to go into the swamp.
Drinking his own pee.
Yeah, let's point out. At the when he worked for New Line Cinemas, he was quoted as being the best in the business by Roger Corman.
Yeah, Roger. You should have just told me that. I could have.
I was getting ready to yell, "Battle Beyond the Stars."
If you'd have said that, I'd been. Oh, you mean Corman?
Yeah. He's also worked on Friday the 13th Part 7, which was actually my favorite of the series. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Halloween 4, Bride of Reanimator, The Ginger Dead Man, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Bikini Car Wash.
Okay, there's a few in there that I...
Yes. He worked on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Bikini Car Wash.
Well, the Crusade, I'm fine with a Bikini Car. Okay, it's like, hey.
Apparently, yeah, for Last Crusade, it says he was special animatronic effects on that, so.
Okay, I could see that, because at the end, when what's-his-name dissolves and turns into, like, the skeleton.
Yeah. Then, next question. Type of horror. I would label this as a comedy horror.
It's got its funny moments, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a straight up comedy.
It's more horror, but it's got some laughs in it.
Oh, and the laughs come from like the situation that the people are in, like some of the lines that they shoot off to each other and like say to each other.
Oh yeah, especially Misty and Jenna were. I thought they had me rolling through the whole thing. They were the sex symbols, but they were also pretty much the comic relief of the movie.
A lot, yeah, definitely. The one that's like, I'm gonna call 911 and have the police send the cops. Yeah. Police send the cops. It says they're the same thing. No, they're not. I'm like, okay. She plays, which one was the blonde? Was that?
The blonde was Misty.
Misty. She plays the perfect, stereotypical dumb blonde.
Oh, yeah. And she does it quite well. She's like Kelly Bundy-ish.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. Let's see. Next question.
Talk about a throwback.
Yeah. The threat. This is where I ask you, is it like a ghost, a monster, human, what? This one's kind of hard to define.
I call it a slash between like, technically he's a ghost, but it's more physical. It's kind of like what I was saying. It's a revenant.
I know there's a movie called The Revenant that, and not the Leonardo DiCaprio one, but there is a horror movie called The Revenant, which I need to check out at some point.
I think I've heard of that one, but
I've seen it advertised. I haven't seen the movie though, so I'm curious though.
But yeah, no, The Revenant's like, I don't want to class it full on zombie, but it is undeadish.
Okay.
Where it's like, if something has happened bad to someone in their past, that they can come back and seek revenge,
right,
on the people that they deem that was the cause of their death. And it seemed like and when you want to tell about how Victor became Victor?
We can get to that. We'll get to that when we get through all our casty stuff, and we'll go to get more in depth in the movie in a little bit.
Okay.
But the next question on my agenda is I didn't get to ask the full question. I've added a little addition to it. What is a threat, and could Chuck Norris beat it?
No.
Yeah, in this case, no. The reason I say that is I'm not playing on the whole popularity of that Chuck Norris website or the Chuck Norris jokes. sometimes this is my little grudge, I think, against the slasher genre, which is, to me, a guy with a knife. That's not scary. That's an extra in a Chuck Norris movie.
Yeah.
I could have said Steven Seagal, but I grew up with Chuck Norris, so I got a soft spot for Chuck Norris. So I'm sticking with that one.
Chuck was. I grew up on Chuck too.
Yeah, in this case, I mean, yeah, of course, in this case, yeah, I would say the answer is no. But there are some cases where, like, the Killers and Scream, even 2-on-1, I think Chuck Norris could have taken them.
Oh, the Killers and Scream, Chuck would have whooped their ass.
Right. And I would say even Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th, 1 through 4, I think Chuck could have taken him.
I don't know about that.
Corey Feldman took him down.
Yeah, that is true. Corey Feldman did take him out in 4, so yeah.
So, yeah, there are some things, if it's...
but like, it would have been a hell of a fight, let's put it like that.
Yeah. But, Chuck, now, could Chuck Norris take Jason in Friday the 13th, part 6 on up? I would say no.
Yeah. Well, Jason was a whole different creature after.
Yeah, that's when he was uber zombie Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chuck could definitely take the Jason in number 5.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I hope he could take him in number 1. He was just a kid.
Well, yeah.
He could probably take the mother out, yeah.
He would have taken the mother out.
But yeah, so that's why my thing is I like monsters. I like the supernatural. To me, a really good horror movie has a supernatural element. Now, there are some good I won't say there aren't good slasher movies out there, and I did like the Scream movies, but...
There's one on my list or whatever that I don't going to mention come up, but what I do, it's like, yeah, that one's...
Okay.
You're going to be like, oh, man.
Okay. Yeah, so...
But then again, I don't know if I would really consider it a slasher, but it is... I'll go into that later.
Okay, yeah, enough.
It's like I'll leave people guessing.
All right. My next segment is Icon Count, which I have 3. See, there's a lot of these movies seem to have, sometimes they're almost shoehorned in, but there's a lot of movies that, like, Kane Hodder just pops up in so much stuff these days, and there are so many people. I got a huge list of people who I consider icons, so I have my Icon Count at 3.
Yeah, in this one we have
Kane Hodder.
Well, Kane Hodder, he actually plays 2 roles in this movie.
Yes, he plays Victor Crowley and Thomas Crowley.
Yeah, he plays Victor's dad in, like, the flashback scenes in the film.
And he did say that was one of the things he liked about this role, that he got to do some acting without the makeup, and he's wanting to do more of that.
People can see, like, this is what he actually looks like.
Yep. And then we have Robert Englund as Samson Dunstan.
Who's like... I'll say this, Robert Englund plays like a really good redneck.
He does. I think there was another movie that I remember him being a really good redneck. Strangeland, I thought he did a really good job at.
I don't remember a lot about that. I actually saw that one in the theater, which was which was weird because it was out for like maybe a week.
Yeah.
But I did see that in the theater, but I don't remember a lot about that.
He does a good sleazy too, like as you mentioned earlier in the Masters of Horror, the Dance of the Dead, where he was the MC at this very twisted nightclub, I guess.
Yeah, it's like after the world is like gone, like kind of like post-apocalyptic almost. Yeah. And there's like a twist. Yeah, he does play a very good sleazy kind of MC character in that one.
Then we also got Tony Todd, the Candyman, as Reverend Zombie,
whose part was like very small in this one, but with the rest of the Hatchets, his part becomes rather more drawn out. But
2 anyway.
But we'll get into those when we actually talk about those.
Yeah. Who else matters? I'm like, a lot of movies, I may not go into the full cast because some of the characters are just there as...
to die.
Right, basically, Although I have to say in this one, though, I like the whole cast pretty much.
Yeah, it's like it seemed like, there wasn't just strictly a character there that was there, for the to be killed purpose.
Right. Everybody there had a personality that you could remember, and I think it's one of the strengths of this movie.
Yeah, it's like every character was a character. They weren't just like random person number 3.
Right.
To be like, like killed off.
Right.
But there's one thing that you talked about, like just real quick, a little earlier, or whatever, where the guy that was in the boat. I like what Green did. Like, he put, like, other people, like, that help, like, bring the movie about, because you said, like, the chick, when they were at the Mardi Gras at the beginning, that was puking on the street. Yeah, there's the producer.
Yeah, that was...
it's like, he's good about, like, if you're there and you help, you're getting in the film somehow.
Yep, that was Sarah Albert puking there. I spotted her easily because I watched a lot of the behind the scenes, but also, and I made references several times throughout the show Holliston, the horror sitcom, which Adam Green also created, but she plays a waitress on that, so I see her face a lot on there, so that's how I knew her.
But yeah, no, it's like I just think that's cool. Like like when directors do that, like they got the producer, because it seems like everybody that was doing this film loved what they were doing.
Oh yeah, and this is really a true indie film. This is like his first big thing he did. I was seeing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and basically what he did was he created a fake trailer where they just went out in the Louisiana swamps. They took a swamp tour. And they had this little girl giving a voice about Victor Crowley, and that was the trailer, and it got people hyped in behind the movie, and that's how they got their funding.
Yeah.
So he really had nothing. He said he was like into production. It was after that he finally got a production office.
There you go. I mean, but
so yeah. That was the end of the cast a little bit. I got Tamara Feldman as Mary Beth Dunstan. No relationship to Corey Feldman, as far as I could find.
Fine. When you said this movie was directed by Adam Green, I'm like, any relation to Seth?
Not that I could find either. I looked it up. No.
When you hear that, it's like, wait a minute. You hear certain names, and it brings other people like Bing right to mind.
Right. Then we got Joel David Moore as Ben, who seemed like he was the main character at first, but throughout the trilogy, it's really Mary Beth. So that's why I listed her first. Joel gets top billing, but it's really Mary Beth is the real main character of the whole series. But he played Owen in Dodgeball, Norm Spellman in Avatar. I was spotted him in a new movie I want to go into on OMG called The Guest. But anyway, they didn't think he would be able to be the leading man, but he did a good job, I thought. Then we got Dean Richmond as Marcus, his friend, who I thought was hilarious.
Marcus, the guy that played Marcus, was really good. Like some of his shots and like one-liners or whatever were like classic.
Yeah,
and some of the expressions on his face.
Yes, especially calling out for him. We'll go into that, but yeah. Mercedes McNabb as Misty, who I thought was also hilarious. We were just talking about her.
The stereotypical dumb blonde type. But a
little bit of a background. Another role you may know her from is she was in the Addams Family Values.
Really? Well, what?
She was, of course, she was young then, but she was like the prissy girl at camp, and she was the one who got tied to a
she was the one. She was the prissy girl at the camp.
Yeah, that's her.
That's her. Okay.
Now she's grown up.
Yeah.
And showing her boobies a lot. Then we got Perry Shen as Sean, the guide. He was in all three. He's also in all three Hatchet movies, playing different characters.
Well, I would think so after what happened in this one.
Yes, he dies. We're not doing a spoiler alarm. He dies.
Yeah, he dies. It's his head taken off with a shovel.
Yeah. And Joel Murray as sort of Doug Shapiro, youngest brother of Bill Murray. I liked him because I liked him in God Bless America, so I had to give him a shout out. And then Joshua Leonard as Ainsley Dunstan, who's Mary Beth's brother.
Okay.
Yes, Joshua Leonard played the character Joshua Leonard in one of your all-time favorite movies, The Blair Witch Project.
Yes.
I had to.
Thanks a lot.
But I thought he was good in this.
Yeah, in this he did a really good job, but God, don't get me. That's a whole nother series of talk about the Blair Witch. I will just say this: the most
he's not a fan.
boring movie I've ever seen. It's supposed to be like, Don't
worry, I promise I will not bring up. Oh yeah, by the way, here's part of the deal with this podcast is that Wills and I are going to take turns picking movies, so you never know what we're going to make the other one sit through. So we may get evil, but don't worry, I promise we will not do a Blair Witch episode unless you bring it up.
Unless I bring,
I'm not going to pick it.
If you did, it's like I can go into more detail of why.
Okay, but still, Joshua Leonard was good. I would like to actually see him in more movies, though. I think he.
In this he did a really good job.
Right.
Although, granted, it was kind of a short part, but still.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. He was cracking me up though. But the trope character section. This is where I talk about there are certain labels that I like to give characters, partially inspired by the movie Behind the Mask. That's where I get the term Ahab. My 4 terms I look for: an Ahab, Rhodes, Barbara, and a final girl. Now, an Ahab is basically the character who's kind of going after the monster. The best example I can think of would be Donald Pleasance in the Halloween movies.
So in other words, Michael Myers is his great white whale.
Yeah.
That's the reason for the Ahab.
So we definitely, funny thing in this one, the Ahab and the final girl are kind of the same character.
Well, Kind of. They are.
They are.
They really are the same character. There's no. I don't think there's no kinda to that one.
Yeah.
The Ahab is the Mary Beth in this movie.
Yep. So now there's no real. Now I classify a Barbara as a character who's just so annoying that you want to see her. That person
you want
die.
to see him die. It's like, oh God, would you just please die?
I don't really, I kind of, to some extent or another, I liked everybody in the movie, so I don't think there's really.
I don't think there's really a Barbara in this movie because, like we mentioned earlier, like all the cast had character. They played, the part that they had. They played it well, did it well, and they, like I said, they weren't just like like person number 3 there to be killed.
Right.
So there wasn't.
So now and I saw there was really no Rhodes either. Rhodes is a character I did find as such an asshole or so villainous that you want to see the monster or whatever get him.
Well, there were a few assholes in this, but I don't know.
But they weren't villainous. They were just
they weren't the asshole that you just want to see die.
Right. So now on to who was your favorite character in the movie?
Take that one first. I think I'm gonna have to think about that.
I'm gonna say Misty, the blonde girl, because pretty much every time she opened her mouth, I thought she was hilarious. So she was cracking me up through the whole thing. There's a lot of humor in this movie, but I just thought she was the funniest character, so I had a soft spot, and she had boobies. And
I think there's the reason it's a winner, folks.
Yeah, but usually you get one or the other. You don't often see both.
I actually liked. Oh God, who was no? What's his name?
Guide?
Friend? No, not the guide. Well, the guide. Okay, honorable mention. The guide is really
Perry Shen. Yes,
Perry Shen. He really has his moments or whatever because he's completely out of his element.
Yeah,
doesn't know what he's doing.
Switches accents.
Well, he's trying to play this like
Cajun kind
of guy, but he's like from Detroit, Asian from Detroit, trying to play Louisiana Cajun. Doesn't know anything about where he is. Admits later on or whatever, it's like
he's from Detroit,
and then his friend or whatever, like he moved down here and he needed a job and he got this gig doing this tour thing. This is only the second one he's had. He crashes the boat.
Yeah, I love that he didn't know his information because I love the way that when they were giving the tour, the old guy kept correcting him, and actually everybody kept correcting him. And you guys let me be the tour guy.
And he had all his info on like index cards that he was reading from.
But okay, so I've given my favorite. Have you thought of one yet?
Actually, I think it's going to be what's his name's friend?
Marcus.
Because he was just like the snarky. It's like like
the real one.
The real one. It's like, really, you dragged me. I was at Mardi Gras. Looking at boobies. And his friend like you dragged me out in the middle of this swamp to go on some half-assed tour like this.
All right, now we're going to our likes. Would you care to go first? What did you like about this movie?
Really, because
I've had time to think about it, so I can give a bigger answer. You're a little more on the spot.
I'm a little more on the spot. Okay, well, one of the things is like the throwback, like the real American horror. I saw lots of elements of like old school movies or whatever that I watched. Like, I did feel like like I saw like very little Friday the 13th ish.
Yes,
there were little parts of that or whatever thrown in there, but it brought old school horror back to like like what it was. It was like the old school gore,
right?
And they didn't shy away from it either.
Yeah,
they didn't like there's a lot of movies where something will happen, but it'll be off screen and you don't actually see kind of how it happens.
Right. This was not a tame movie by any
there's like getting away. No PG-13 here, boys and girls.
Not by a long shot.
And that's one thing. Like like I said, that I did like about it. It got away from that. I don't know if they want to say like the horror genre is like especially like mainstream, the ones that hit that they seem like they're being sanitized, so they don't step on anybody's toes anymore. Like
I think even around this time, like there are so many movies that there were like the ghost stories, but like The Sixth Sense, Stir of Echoes, Skeleton Key, so many. It seemed like they were coming up with just basically tamer horror movies. But as I said, sometimes they're good, but
some of them actually do work, but some of them like it just.
But I think they were trying to be more mainstream. I think maybe to an extent maybe The Sixth Sense started where horror could be more mainstream, and I think that the bigger studios started getting in on the act. And
I think they're like their main goal when it comes to like any movie, not just horror, is like to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And with like rated R and like it's not like, you know, a movie like this, it's really niche, folks.
Yeah.
It's like that's not going to like, you know, reach the wide audience.
Yeah.
You're not going to see the family there.
Well, the ones we poke fun at probably do.
Well, yeah, some of the ones. But yeah, no, that's mine. So that's my main, you know, like of this movie, love of this movie. So, but you said you had a longer one, so let's have at it.
Well, I'll tell you what, pretty much everything you just said. I liked, the over-the-top gore in this was amazing. In fact, some of the violence was so over the top that it almost felt like I was watching the old Itchy and Scratchy cartoons from The Simpsons.
Sometimes, yeah,
it
seems like some of the kills were kind of itchy and scratchy, like especially the older couple that was on the tour. Which their characters. What were their names, or did you?
I didn't write it down.
Oh, you didn't write them down.
I didn't.
But you know, well, you should have, because like
I know,
but
I got tired of writing.
It happens. But like I said, there's like a lot. Nobody in this movie was just there to be
right.
Their characters were actually real good too, because they were like the old.
That's
like
one of the things I put down as one of the likes was the cast.
Yes.
This was a lot of these slasher flicks, just again have just a group of people there just to be hacked up, where everybody really had a good character.
But one of the best lines of the movie is like Joel Murray. He's like playing this like sleazy like director or whatever, who's got those
a fake Girls Gone Wild director, basically.
Yeah, more or less, or whatever. And when they get on the tour boat, the old couple's. Ask him like, what do you? He's like, oh, you're a director. We got a real filmmaker. Like, what do you do?
You know Bayou Beavers?
And the old guy's like, yes. And his wife's like, no. And he's like, no. It's like, he's like, yeah, no.
Yes.
So he knows, but he's not going to let her know that.
Right.
But back to the whole
I like Victor Crowley as a monster. Good unstoppable force. He was scary. I think Kane Hodder had a lot of fun because he got to run around. He was a lot more savage than Jason.
With this role, with him, I will say, with him as Jason, I like him as Jason. He did a real good job as Jason. But with Jason, he's stepping in to another character, because there was a lot of other people. There was other people that had done Jason before he got to his first was 7. So there were 6 other Friday the 13th before he ever even got there. But with this role as Crowley, it's his. Yeah. You cannot say, Victor Crowley is his baby. Right. And he brought him to life and brought him as a real, he actually has character too, even though he's running around. Yes. He has really no words, but there are parts like in the flashback scenes or whatever where before he's like gets killed and turns into this ghost revenant thing that he's become, that you feel sorry for him. Because basically it's him and he's this kid who's been born with birth deformities. Right. And him and his father live out in the middle of the bayou, and his dad's there, taking care of him, right, protects him. And, all the other kids, they all, do their, typical kid shit, where if anything's different, they're going to poke and tease and all that. Oh, yeah. And, he ends up getting killed. Yep. One of my other likes is, and we've said it several times already, but I'll say it again, I thought the whole cast was good. Oh, yeah. So the cast is definitely a strength of this movie. And the humor, I liked of it a lot. Again, I talked about how much I liked. Well, actually, everybody, I would say, if you took out Mary Beth and Victor Crowley, this movie could have been a straight-up comedy. Somewhat, but I think if you let Mary... Yeah. Yeah, Mary Beth didn't have a lot of humor. Everybody else did. Yeah, there was a lot of, pot shots and one-liners and humorous jabs going on between a lot of the other characters, except Crowley didn't say much except but Mary Beth was she was playing it scared straight, scared or straight scared. Yeah. Although tough chick scared because she was carrying a gun, and she was just there to find her missing father and brother, which she kind of did. Yeah, well, in pieces, but she found him. Yeah. And my last like is that, again, I have appreciation that this is a movie that was made by a true horror fan. Oh, and you can see that all over it. I mean, for like the effects, the story with like little nods here and there to like the old, like what we've been mentioning. This is good old school fashion, like, horror, like it was like in the heydays of like the 80s, from your, Friday the 13th to your My Bloody Valentines to your Prowlers to your The Burnings and I can go on, folks. Do you really?
And I mean, I think there's a lot of like the bigger studios. There are some people actually on both ends of the spectrum. There are big studios that really have no business making horror movies. And on the other end of the spectrum, indie filmmakers who, there are some that are good. I like a lot of indie films, but there are those who you can tell when they're doing it just basically to try to make a buck. Like
I've said on like on some of the episodes of OMG or whatever, it seems like anybody with $50 and a camera on their phone sometimes think they can make a horror film.
Right.
I mean, and it's like, no. Like, no.
I said, I can tell. And sometimes you can tell. I mean, I don't mind the indie films if they do a good job. And sometimes you can tell
that's like
if they're a true horror fan or if they're, again, just think that. I think I judged it on how much effort they put into it.
Oh, and the effort in this was like.
Oh yeah.
They did a sweet effort job on this one. Because like I said, like the gore effects were they didn't shy away. Because like when I was talking about the old couple, when she buys it, it's like hands like in the Crowley like grabs her by the head, sticks his hands in her mouth, like like one for the upper jaw, one for the lower jaw, and just like peels her back like a Pez dispenser. And it's like, I'm like, sweet, I haven't seen that one.
Actually, you have, because it reminded me of another movie that we did a podcast on. There was a scene like that in Zombie Strippers.
Oh yeah. Like again,
that's what it reminded me of.
Then again, like I have only seen that movie once.
Yeah.
And talk about Robert Englund playing like a sleazy, like we talked about him in Dance of the Dead, Master Horror, like a sleazy club owner. Like there's another one.
Yeah. All right. I guess now we can move on to our dislikes. Did anything come to mind?
Really, I can't think of any dislikes I really had. This one kind of like hit all the marks.
Right,
I mean, granted, I mean, like, there's some movies or whatever that we'll probably get to that I'll have a lot more dislikes. But
I have
this one. I really can't find any.
Well, I will say the very first time I watched this, I did not like the ending.
Well,
but
I didn't mind the ending because, like I said, that was where I said I got like nods from like the old school. It's like they end up on a boat, like in the middle of a lake. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Here's the Friday the 13th, like jump out the water.
Yeah. It's just I didn't like the way that they cut it off so sharply that it gave me a flashback. Now, at the time, this was the only Hatchet movie out, so that's a key factor here why I don't hate it so much anymore. But it reminded me, the way it left you hanging, it gave me a flashback of Halloween 5.
I don't remember a lot about that.
Okay, well, Halloween 5, that was the one where they had the guy who, there was these mysterious boots walking around.
Oh, yeah.
And he got Danny Harris, just says no, and then it just cuts off so suddenly that it just left you hanging. And this one, it left you hanging just so suddenly that it kind of pissed me off when I first, now knowing that now that I have seen the sequels, pretty much Hatchet 2 picks up right exactly where Hatchet
this one
1 left off. So now,
it didn't leave you. It left you hanging for this movie, but it picks
now
up.
Now that I can just throw Hatchet 2 right in. Okay, it doesn't bother me so much anymore. My only other bitch is that I didn't like Misty's death.
Misty's?
Yeah, the blonde girl.
Well,
everybody else was getting.
You didn't see her.
That's what I didn't like.
You didn't see hers. It's like what's his name's rooting around in the cabin looking for or the shed looking for gas. Yeah. Because they're gonna set Crowley on fire.
All of a sudden, her head comes flying in.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, and then her torso, and then her.
Yeah, so I would have at least liked to see Victor jump out and grab her or something. I guess I would have taken away from the suspense. It's just, man, the way everybody was getting torn up in the most absurd, crazy ways. I kind of wanted to see her get that.
The other girl, what was her name? Was
Jenna.
Jenna. where Crowley takes like a
circular sander,
and like puts it like right on her face, like lower jaw,
and then he picks her up and impales her on the shovel handle that he just decapitated Sean, Perry Shen's character with. Again, there's the over the topness that I kind of wanted to see Misty get some of that too. Just give a lame off-screen kill to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are my only two bitches. I saw.
Well, there was one other off-screen. There was some.
Yes, Robert Englund was.
Robert
too.
Englund was another.
I was a little disappointed about that one too, but
hey,
it worked for the suspense of the
you can't
scene.
have it all.
Yeah.
Well, they were setting us up with the very beginning. That was the entire setup.
But still, okay, yeah. On that one, I kind of wish that one would have been sort of reversed if you really think about it, because if he'd have just found his son torn up, and then you would have had Kane Hodder rip Robert Englund limb from limb. Now, how cool would that have been?
Oh, but don't mention the Friday first Jason versus Freddy,
which Kane,
which he wasn't in.
Right. And even then, they pretty much kind of fought. Yeah, they tore each other apart pretty good, but they still kind of fought to a draw.
And I will say this or whatever.
Because maybe that's why they didn't show it.
Yeah, probably. Then again, I will say this or whatever. What was with Victor Crowley like loving to just like tear arms off? That was one thing. There were several characters where he just pulling arms off.
Yep.
Like bink, bink, bink. That was like his thing.
Let's see. On to the trivia. Sometimes this section may not be important, but I do have some this time.
Well, I mean, if it pops up for a movie, bring it in, man.
Yeah.
Like you said, this is one
you spotted.
Which was?
Which was on the crypt. The name Green was shown on the top.
Yeah, and I've seen this movie several times. Like, actually, this is my copy or whatever that we were watching. I didn't notice that.
Yep.
But then again, I didn't really pay attention to as close as I did this time around.
Yeah. I mean, it said, if nothing else, even if you're not into the details, for a horror fan who wants something that's not as tame as what is usually out there, this is just a good, fun popcorn movie to watch.
Yeah.
Also, as I pointed out, Sarah Elbert was throwing up at the beginning of the movie. She was a producer. So was Corey Neal, and both of their names were on tombstones when they were running through the cemetery at the end.
Okay, I did miss those.
I read that in the trivia section, and I looked for them, and I spotted them when we watched it.
Okay, because they pressed flew by.
Yep. The term "You've got to be fucking kidding me" is in all three movies. In this one, it was by Joel David Moore when it started raining.
Well, yeah, it's like you've just lit the man on fire, and now it starts to rain, and that's that's something that's happened in a lot of horror movies.
Yeah. And I said we commented on Joel David Moore's T-shirt, the smiley face.
Yeah, because you showed me
It was a Monster Problems. It was a short film done by Adam Green.
Yeah, and the nightlight that the kid had in his room is the same symbol that he's wearing on his T-shirt in the movie.
Yeah, that is the logo for Newbury Comics, a New England chain of comic stores that Adam Green he grew up in the New England area, even though he's now in L.A., but that's where he would buy his horror movies and action figures and stuff like that. So, yeah, he gives a little nod to, I guess, his roots.
Yeah.
And there's one problem with the title of this movie. This is a technical thing that's been pointed out online to death, but I'll point out again.
Which is?
Okay, by definition, a hatchet is a one single-bladed short instrument, as opposed to having a blade on the front and the back. So that's actually not a hatchet. That's nitpicky, I know.
Nitpicky, but you know what? My opinion on that, a hatchet is something that it's handheld.
Yeah.
An axe is something you need two hands to swing, folks.
Oh yeah, I guess I can see.
So
that.
I can like hatchet, you only need one hand for that. I don't care if it has one or two blades. If you only need one hand to swing it, it's a hatchet in my book.
Yeah. We have body count. I counted 10. IMDb said 11, but I'm only counting 10.
Okay, go down.
That includes and that includes Victor Crowley.
That includes?
Yeah.
Well, how many times? Because he is killed.
Well, I mean,
I don't know. They don't really kill him.
I'm counting when he was still mortal and his dad accidentally kills him. I'm counting that one. And I'm thinking, where did the others get the 11 now? I didn't count his father drinking himself to death because they didn't really show anything.
Well, I mean,
that.
It's like they just said, after, because we mentioned, the kids that were teasing him accidentally set the cabin on fire, and he's locked in, and his dad picks up a hatchet, trying to get in, and Victor is pressed up against the door, so he actually hits him against the hatchet.
Yeah.
Accidentally hits him in the face, accidentally killing him. So his dad just ends up basically like, like sitting there for like 10 years, like with a broken heart, like dying slowly.
Right. And I also did not count Joel David Moore, Ben, as he was still conscious and breathing when the credits rolled. So
yeah, well, he didn't have an arm though, but he
had his arm off. But
once again, it's like, what is Victor with ripping off arms?
Spoiler: he does pop up in part 3. So
okay, without an arm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so
because it's been a while since I've seen that one.
Right. I just rewatched all of them, but yes, he is in the third one also.
It's actually been a while since I've seen this one, but
So I'm counting body count 10 as opposed to IMDb's 11 because I'm thinking they probably counted Joel and I didn't.
Okay.
All right. Scariest part of the movie. For me, I think it would be the very end. Once you guys pull up.
I don't know. It's like, with me, that one's going to be hard because, like...
We've seen so many that
you know me, I'm such a glut for these kind of movies. I'm like...
It's impossible to
It's like, da.
Okay, I can acknowledge where I could see where somebody else would find that scary.
Yeah. Oh, people that are like, like the casual or horror movies just are kind of not their thing. Yeah, there's a lot that would like make them like probably go, running for the hills. But me, I don't know. I really can't find anything. But then again, that's just me.
Yeah. For me, it's between that and the first appearance of Victor Crowley when he first comes out when the elderly couple are walking over and we first get to see him. It's at the 47-minute mark.
Yeah. I don't know, like the first...
Right. Funniest part, because I can find humor in just about any horror movie. There's almost none that have no humor in it that I can't find.
It's like...
For me, it's just about anything that came out of Misty's mouth, but...
That one? Me, it's when the...
Marcus?
No. Well, Marcus had some great lines, so he's like the humorous character, but the one thing that really cracked me up was when what's-his-name when he tries to grab the shovel from Victor.
Sean.
Sean, the inept tour guide.
Yeah.
Tries to grab the shovel, and Victor just pulls out and swings it, and like, whoop, there goes his leg.
Yeah.
And then he just takes a shovel and like puts it on his neck, and you see Sean there like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And he just like, boom. I don't know.
Even some of the kills in their own way, in a slapsticky way, are kind of funny. But
you will find that a lot with me in a lot of these movies. Like, what's the funniest part? Oh, when that sucker dies.
Yeah, that's acceptable. It's something not necessarily intend to be humorous. What do we find humorous?
It's like a lot of people are like, wow, man, you're kind of twisted. I was like, I'm sorry, I found a guy getting his head popped off by a shovel kind of funny. It
almost made me think of part of Day of the Dead.
Well, that and there's one thing, and it's another movie that I would love to bring up on this one, so it might be one of mine down the line. Is like heads being popped off by shovels, because I found that hilarious at Reanimator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like,
now there's one I haven't seen in forever. So
the whole head getting like plopped off by shovel, that's just kind of funny.
Oh yeah. Now,
but then again, I'm kind of twisted.
Another section I'm adding exclusively for this particular podcast, because I don't think it would work on OMG, is the trope count.
Oh, yeah. If there's like the stereotypical tropes of any horror film. Like,
yes.
If you watch any horror film, there's going to be at least one or several, like, okay, that's a constant.
Yeah, and some of these I took from online. There was a top 10 list of biggest horror movie cliches and whatnot. And some of these are just ones that I just happened to notice. In fact, there are some that they give that I didn't agree with. But I want to go down the whole list just because this is a premiere episode. On future episode, I'm just going to point out the ones that I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, because not every horror movie is going to have every single trope.
Right, and most of it, I think, though, it's getting a little cookie cutter if they have more than 5. Although not all these tropes are necessarily bad. I did want to point that out. There are some that there's just things that I notice a lot in horror movies. So, number 1, nudity equals death.
Yeah.
Check, that happened. Now, I don't count background characters, like in this case, the Mardi Gras girls at the beginning of the movie.
No, it actually has to be a character that's
right. I'm not
specific to the film.
Yeah, I'm not going to call it if the killer doesn't go way out of his way to. He's
going to be running. Yeah, Victor Crowley running down Bourbon Street. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
So, but yeah, in this case, yep, that one is on here. Number 2. Token black character dies.
Yep.
Although I'm hesitant because Marcus was such a good character that
he wasn't like he was definitely not a token. He was like I said,
token. He was a good character, but still, now if there are like multiple black characters in the movie and one of them lives, and I'm not going to count that trope.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, because Marcus, like next to the tour guide, was my favorite character.
Yeah.
Actually, they're kind of tied with me.
Yeah.
We're going back to it.
Number 3, no cell phone reception. Yes, that happened. Number 4 is power outage. No, that one really didn't.
Well, there was really no
power.
No power. I mean, they're in the middle of a swamp. It's not
right.
Unless you count the boat giving out or something like that. But yeah, no.
I have a not trying to finish the killer or at least disarm them when he's down. That happened. And of course, not that now we know at this point that it would not have done any good. The one I'm thinking of specifically is when Ben stabbed him with a pitchfork and he went down. Like, I thought right there they had a chance to all gang up on him. They could have grabbed the hatchet, wailed on him. If he's going to keep coming after you, if he's down, put him down, keep him down.
Yeah, it's like, if you got the killer down and he's like that, don't run away because that's just guaranteed like he's going to pop back up somewhere else.
Right. There were some that, now some I can see where like I won't count it if like the character isn't aware that this is a life or death situation, but at this point in the movie, I think they pretty much were. If somebody's chasing somebody, they knock him down, but they don't know he's trying
There were
to kill
only
them.
3 characters left when that little bit happened.
Like there was one movie I watched. In fact, it was Dust Devil. I was watching him, and the girl had the killer down. Now I could see her wanting to escape, but she had his knife and then dropped his knife right by him. At this point, I'm yelling at the screen. So if I see
that's the same
like
thing.
That, I'm going to yell. I'm going to point it out.
That trope's in a lot of movies, and I can bring that up in some other ones.
Oh yeah, and we'll point them out when they happen. So yeah, number 6 is false scares.
Yes, there was that in this one too.
And I'm thinking a lot of times that happens in so many horror movies. A lot of times it's a cat. At least this time it was a raccoon. But
yeah, like what's her name is standing in like front of this bush, and you see the bush moving, and you hear like, but you don't know if it's the killer or what it is.
Right. Number 7 is, now I won't count. Oh, by the way, now I say false scares. Sometimes jump scares when it's really the killer and he just jumps out and scares the shit out of you. That doesn't count. That's a legitimate scare.
False scare I consider like if somebody's there and all of a sudden you see a hand come up and they grab them and they jump and they turn around and it's one of the other characters.
Right. Yeah,
it's not the killer.
That happens a lot. Number 7. Playfully tampering with dark forces.
Oh, that happens a shit ton in the horror movies.
I count that as anything from playing with a Ouija board. Here's a Necronomicon. Let's read from it. See what happens.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Or like, hey, that house is supposed to be haunted. Let's go look around in there.
Right. Sometimes, I don't. Well, yeah.
I don't know. It's if you want to call it tampering in a way, that kind of is because it's like like. You're like, oh, this is horse shit. I'm going to go make...
Yeah.
And then it turns out not to be.
I would not count that one in this particular case because nobody believed it.
Not for this movie.
Yeah.
Except for what's her name, the main character. She believed it.
Yeah, but she went in there with a mission.
Yeah, she went in there.
She wasn't being stupid. She wasn't being playful. She was out for business.
Yeah. But everybody else on the tour boat was like, they're like, oh, this is just crap.
Yeah. Number 8. Ineffective law enforcement.
Actually, in effect, there was no law enforcement.
Right, this one. So this is one that I would say is not always bad. Sometimes they have cops that do incredibly dumb shit in horror movies. But every now and then it also serves to show what a badass the monster or whatever is. So, in this case, I don't think that's a necessarily bad thing. But still, I'm still going to count when I point out police not being able to take something out.
Well, because they're not able to.
Right. Number 9, let's split up.
That happened in this movie,
yes,
but they split up by accident. It's like when they never did really go.
When he first appears. Well, I'm going to count that just because of the character Doug Shapiro.
Well, they were all running. Well, they were all running away, and he just kind of went a different direction.
Right.
So it wasn't like. I wouldn't really count that one for, me personally, because when they were all running away and they all kind of went different directions, but Moore went with one and he just kind of like ran off and got lost on his own. That's not like, okay, you go over here and I'm going this way. You go that way, I go this way. So
okay, and number 10, Last scare after killer supposedly dead.
Yeah, that has this one.
Yeah, although it's questionable because they pretty much knew he was unkillable, but I'm going to count it anyway because you kind of half thought they might be safe once they got to the boat. And
the one thing I like, if they're in the boat and they're able to get like, don't stop rowing. It's like, don't stop it, like in the middle of the lake to have a conversation like that. Just keep rowing, and I'm just going to keep rowing until I see something that doesn't look like swamp.
Right. Number 11, Just a Dream. Not in this
one. No, not for this movie. But that is a standard trope in a lot like a horror.
One of the best examples I can think of with that one would be American Werewolf in London, where
there's
a fan and then he wakes up. Yeah,
there's like 2 scenes in that where it's like just a dream for him.
Yeah,
actually 3.
That's something that I also notice a lot in horror movies, so I'm going to point that out. That's why I wrote that one down. 12, again, not necessarily a bad thing, but it happens a lot in horror movies. Remote location.
Yeah.
That happened in this one.
This one, it's like they're in the middle.
That's just good storytelling,
they're in the middle of the bayou.
Right. But it's just one thing that happens a lot, so.
That one can also be like lumped in with like remote location or just flat out isolated.
Yeah.
Like away from you're not close to anything remote to like a civilization or anything like that. Like say going back to like the original Night of the Living Dead or whatever, they're on like a farm and like probably the nearest town over is like several miles.
Right, and I would count it for that movie as well. Again, let's see. And 13, the last one. Cute things made monstrous. The main things I think of with this one are dolls and clowns.
Dolls and clowns with this one.
No, not with this.
Not with this one.
That's just number 13. No, I'm not. I'm not attaching that one to this movie. That's
okay.
When you said trope number 13 that I have on my list of 13. So these are my 13 tropes, and so I got a trope count of 8 on this.
Yeah.
But in a way, sometimes that would be a negative thing. But this one is done as kind of a love letter to all these kinds of movies.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, this is like old school. So if this is like, like you said, this is a love letter to the old school horror.
Right.
Like you and me grew up on.
Yes.
Yeah, like that all we grew up on. And if I saw this movie and they did not have a lot of those tropes, I'd be like,
this person doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Calling it a love letter to like old school horror, we grew up on, and not have these tropes is like not a love letter to that kind of stuff.
Right.
But this movie has it. It's all over and done well.
Yep. Okay, next section. Did this movie have a happy ending? Not really.
It really just had like a cutoff. It's like there really was no ending. It's just like you just see it at the end, and then like you said that when you first saw it, that irritated you. It just stops.
And that's the thing that
because there's really no definite ending. So
and that's the thing I put this on here because this is one thing I love about the horror genre, as opposed to most movies like mainstream movies, is that happy endings in horror movies are never a guarantee.
No.
So that's gonna be a yes or no question. Yeah, no, not really.
And I don't know if you want to call it another trope to add to that list or whatever. The false happy ending.
Oh yeah. No, well, I'm kind of counting that as like the number 10, the last scare after killer supposedly dead or something like that. It kind of falls under that.
I can see it falling under there, but the false happy ending is another big thing that happens a lot in horror movies. Just when everybody think they're safe, it's all done, it's all over, and then boo.
Yeah, the next thing I ask is, were there hints of a sequel?
Not really.
Yeah, you didn't know. And like I said, my first viewing of this, it kind of left me scratching my head that I didn't know what to make of it. So basically, the story was unresolved. You can say that. Yeah,
that's like you really, if this had been the only Hatchet movie, you could really take this anywhere in your head that you wanted to.
Yeah. And was there a sequel? Yes, there was.
Now, actually, there's 2.
Yeah. And the reason I put these as separate questions is because I've seen a lot of cases where those answers don't necessarily match up. Either A, there is no hint of a sequel, but they'll make a sequel anyway, or they'll hint at a sequel, and then the sequel will never happen. So sometimes those answers don't always match.
I find that when that happens, I find that a lot has to do with like how well the movie did in money.
Yes, money. Exactly. It's pretty much exactly what it is.
I mean, if a movie where there's no hint at a sequel, but it makes a crap ton of money, you bet your sweet bippy there's another one coming.
Yeah.
Or if there's one that's like supposed to be set up as like, a trilogy of films or whatever, but the first film tanks, you ain't going to see the other ones.
Yeah, yeah. All right, now I'm on to the open discussion on the movie. So, let's see, things to bring up. Like I said, yeah, I've mentioned Adam Green makes cameos in all 3 movies, actually.
Well, he's not the only director.
Oh, yeah.
He's not the only since Hitchcock and a lot of other. He's not the only director to do that one, folks.
Yeah, this is where we're able to talk about the movie in details and things like that. But, yeah, there was a massive booby count at the beginning during the opening credits.
God, what is you and boobies, man?
I'm a guy. No, I just probably about. So, how'd you like that opening theme music? I expected that to be one of your dislikes, Marilyn Manson. Sorry, Nikki.
Yeah, I'm not a.
My sister's a Marilyn Manson fan, so.
That guy is such a flop cake.
All right, got to make sure to not have you two on the same episode. All right. Let's see. I like the Misty and Jenna were wannabe Girls Gone Wild.
Well, that was their characters.
Yeah. Again, I said I like the whole that. I said they were also the comedy relief. Yeah. But like they found Doug Shapiro's bags. I'll bet Doug Shapiro's been here. Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, brilliant. There's his bag. It's like he must have been.
You know the dildo goes in your cooch and not your ear. And
yeah.
Oh, why don't you go suck your dad off again? I will after you. And
yeah, they were just like giving shots back and forth to each other all over the place.
Yeah.
One complaining how stupid one was, and the other one complaining how the other one was.
Yeah, one of them was actually. Definitely Misty was the dumber of the two. But...
Well, that was the part she was playing.
Yeah. I can't say she was by much, but
yeah,
they were fun. Let's see. We've been over.
We've been over a lot of this.
Yeah, we have.
We actually it seems like a lot of it, just going back, we've been over a lot of this. Just
I don't know if there's anything left that I really want to bring up because we've already brought up a lot of the stuff before I get. This is where I sat down, took notes as I was sitting there watching the movie. I did like Reverend Zombie's story.
Tony
Todd. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
he starts off with this real, ominous sounding. You think it's going to be like one of those foreshadowing of what's to come and all this and that.
Yeah, and that I'll leave you that to you got to watch this movie for that because it's funny.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about while I was watching the movie is that when they're trying to get away from him after he's made his appearance, they do a lot of yelling in the woods. I'm like, is that really a good idea? The fight breaks out.
That's another. I don't know.
Maybe that's.
I don't know which trope that would fall under, or if that's another one. It's like when you're being be quiet.
Yeah. I don't know if it was a trope, but it was just. Maybe I'm going to look for that in more horror movies.
You notice that a lot, like horror movies, especially ones that take place in isolated areas or woods and stuff like that. It's like if you're being chased by a monster, don't start screaming after one of the other characters.
Yeah. Oh, there was one kill I kind of liked because it was when Victor Crowley kills Marcus and pulls his arm off.
Yeah.
But when he slammed him up against the crypt that says green on it, to me that was a little reminiscent of the sleeping bag kill that Jason did.
In Jason X.
I think he did in that one. I think he also did it in part 7. I could be wrong, but I know it's one of them. But Kane Hodder,
he might have done it more than once.
I think because when I saw Kane Hodder at the horror convention, they were doing their Jason panel, and they were listing their favorite kills from each Jason. The guy from part 6 had bending the guy over backwards, and the guy from part 2 said, machete to the head in a wheelchair down the stairs.
Yeah.
But Kane
Jason
Hodder's,
does not care about politically correct who he kills.
Yeah. Kane Hodder's was the sleeping bag, so I kind of felt like that may have been a nod to that.
Could have been, or then it would have been, like I said, this had so many nods to a lot of those movies, a lot of old school.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess unless you have more to say about it, I think we've said
I think we've covered this one in pretty good detail.
Yeah. All right. So now we're ready
no negatives from me. This one was hits all. It just hits all the spots.
So would you give it a 5 hatch? Oh yeah. By the way, we're doing a rating system 1 through 5. We picked hatchets. I said everybody else does skulls. I had thought about daggers and machetes and everything else. And yeah, hatchet seems like a good choice. So like I said, I would say 5 hatchets is. Yeah, I must own this.
Yeah, you must go out and buy this.
4 is, I would probably buy it if it was on sale. I think 3 is, I'm happy I watched it, but I don't really care enough to buy it. 2 is meh, and 1 is fuck you for making me sit through this.
Well, there's actually going to be a few or whatever that I might bring up at some point.
Or the negatives.
Yeah, it's like, is there anything like a minus hatchet? Like, you know, like a hatchet with like, you know, like it's without the blade. It's like, it's just, you're holding a stick.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say you would give this one a 5?
I would give this one a 5. This one, if you're a true like horror fan and you like love this stuff,
needs to be in your collection.
This is one you should have.
I agree.
Definitely, this is one you should have. Even if you don't, when we talk about like, you know, I'm sure we're going to get to like 2 and 3 here at some point on this show. Even if you don't have 2 or 3, the first one you've got to have.
Yeah. I would say buy the whole set, though, so you don't get left hanging.
Yeah, but I'm such a completist, so I'm like 2 and 3, and they're good too, and we'll like get into those like, you know, when we talk about them.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But you definitely need, this one is one you should have in this collection.
There you go. We're both giving it 5 hatchets, so go out and buy it. See it at any cost. Any cost.
I wouldn't know about any cost, but you know.
Yeah, but definitely, as if you're a true horror fan,
if you come across this and like, you know, for sale anywhere, like, oop, got to have that.
Yep. All right, cool. Then, so once again for Neil Street Nightmare, I'm Clint Andre, and
this is Wheels.
All right, stay scared or something.
Stay scared.
Okay, sorry.